ADO, this is King Black, and I titled this video, man, my whiteness ain't got nothing to do with my message that I'm putting out there. A lot of people are quick to point out the color of my skin when it doesn't matter, man. Now, my messages might not be as important as Martin Luther King Jr., but just like in his famous speech, it's about the content of my character, not the color my skin is that matters. I'm out here trying to promote positivity out here. I'm trying to convince other young ones, other younglings out there, and whatever organization they might be in, be it GD, be it Blood, be it Crip, be it, SGDs, Simon City Royals, Cobras, whatever, that there's a way to be who you are without following the same path of destruction laid out in front of you by those who came before you. Meaning, in order to prove to the world that you are who you say you are, you shouldn't have to delve into all these negative things that can get you locked up for decades, make you lose your life for something dumb. All these young kids that have been picked up, who have lost their lives over dealing, over things related to dealing, over inconsequential beefs, over some Twitter stuff, over some YouTube videos. Remember what happened with Lil JoJo in Chicago. People are out here losing their lives just because they've shown their face to the world. And it's unnecessary, man. There will always be these people out here trying to make a name for themselves. And it's all senseless, man. People are quick to take another's life over some nonsense. Back in the day, before the internet as we know it now, for those of us that grew up in the late 80s, early 90s, the internet didn't exist like it does today. We didn't have no YouTube. We didn't have no Facebook. So back in those days, the way members of organizations handle things were different. Most of the time, if you had a beef with somebody, you actually had to go to where they were at or call them up. Now it's so impersonal now. Now you don't even have any indication that a threat is coming your way until it happens, until something ends up happening to you, until you end up getting jacked, until you end up getting shot at. My whole thing is, a lot of people be trolling my comment section, hating on what I'm saying, when all I'm trying to do is spread some positivity up in here. Saying that I've been a Latin King for 14 years. Never spent a day in jail. That's something to be celebrated, not to be laughed at, man. When you got kids out here, 13, 14, 15 years old, carrying a gun to school, dealing drugs. Back in the day, the most I had to be worried about was getting beat up. Nowadays, you got 9-year-old kids walking the streets with a 9mm or a 40 in their waistband, man. Think about that, man. At 9 or 10 years old, I was riding a bike, going to the playground, developing friendships, man. But now you have 9 and 10-year-olds trying to act hard, and they can actually take your life, because you are not expecting a little 9-year-old kid to pull out a gun and shoot you. And if people think that gang members shoot indiscriminately, imagine a kid carrying a gun. And that is some of what I'm trying to change, man. I have lived 14 years in my organization dedicated to positivity and living differently than what is portrayed in the media. To be one of those few who can truly say they have spent decades and never been behind bars, never got messed up in the wrong things, mentored others to follow that same path, man. You want to keep the future generations out of jail and the penitentiary, man. Because every time they go in, they come out worse than what they went in. And they already come out discouraged because they've lost so much time, it's hard for them to catch up. Everybody already moved on with their life. It's harder to get a job now because they got a record. You know, they're basically setting themselves up for a heartache. You know, you want these young kids to put their minds back to school. Take it seriously, man. Try to get good grades. Try to get involved in extracurricular activities like sports. And if they still want to be about that life, they can live it in a way that is different than the norm. They don't have to be living in an organization out there doing drive-bys, trying to look for the ops all the time. You can represent your hood, you can wear your colors, but carry yourself in a dignified and respectable manner. Still be a productive member of society. To be that exception to the rule. To show people that not every person that belongs to an organization is automatically bad. That there are people who are out there that want to live that particular organization's core values and bring it back to what it's supposed to be. The problem has been how easy and how quick that dirty money can come in, and that temptation. It's a lot harder to make $1,000 the right way 9 out of 10 times than it is to do it the wrong way. But the wrong way leads to many consequences. Making that $1,000 in an hour can lead to you getting caught up, leading to you getting 10, 15, 30 to life, leading to you having to take someone's life or someone trying to take your life. Whereas if you live in the right way, all you have to worry about is self-defense. Because if you belong to an organization, just because you are not trying to be negative doesn't mean negativity isn't going to come at you. But you need to be ready to deal with it. You need to be ready to deal with people who disrespect boundaries and are trying to do everything the wrong way. They might see you trying to live right, but these people don't have that same values of trying to live right for themselves. So they're going to try and take what you got. And you have to always be prepared physically and mentally to take care of you and your own when that time comes. But freedom is much sweeter than being in a cage. And that goes without saying, as I have read in many of my comments. Nobody should be aspiring to go to jail. And people who glorify that kind of shit, take the L, man. Because you should never want to see people that could be potentially your own child, your nephew, your grandson, your granddaughter. You don't want them making those kind of mistakes where they're spending decades behind bars, missing out on life, missing out on milestones, missing out on family members dying, being born, additions to the family, making something out of themselves, having a career. Nah, but some of these trolls in my comments, right, they want to be glorifying that kind of life of dealing or saying that, you know, all gangsters deal. That's some BS, man. There's a lot of hardworking people out there in these organizations, man. There are people who are trying to do it the right way, even though we know how easy it is to do it the wrong way. But we are not about destroying our communities. We are about trying to uplift our communities, helping out our youth, keeping them on that path. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to be another statistic, man. You have no idea how tiring it is to go to another funeral because somebody else just got shot at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 5 a.m. on a Friday, on a Saturday, on a Tuesday, just because they were outside, or just because they were coming out of a bar and somebody recognized them. It gets tiring, man. And this goes for all organizations, not just mine. It gets tiring seeing that those kids that you remember playing outside riding bikes when they're 10, 11, 12, 13, you see those same kids, but now they've been to juvie, they're out there dealing, they have a weapon, they're skipping school, they're not doing their homework. Then you have the superiors, you have the OGs who aren't telling them any different. All they're telling them is, hey, you need to pass up some of that money on up, you know what I'm saying? All they care about is profit. They don't care. It's not their kid. They don't care if that kid does something that they end up getting picked up the next day and being sent to an adult facility for 10, 15 years. Because they'll have that same kid making money for them in the inside too. Say, hey, give me some of that commissary or put some money on my books. Instead of trying to correct these kids while they're still young and say, hey, you don't have to be going out looking for ops, man. You should be worrying about getting some A's and B's. You know, only deal with the threats that come to you. Don't go looking for trouble. But then you have all these rap songs glorifying the money coming from narcotics and pulling up on somebody and jacking them. You know, they glorify that image. And the kids think they had to live like that to be something. But I'm going to tell you, when you're spending 20 or 30 years in jail, you're going to be nothing because the world keeps rolling. The world keeps spinning. And with time, you will be forgotten. And by the time you get out, since you have been gone so long, your name might not necessarily mean anything anymore. You might go back to your old hood, and there's a new set of kids out there who don't even know who you are, and you end up being the one who gets jacked. My whiteness should not matter. It's the message that counts. And a lot of people want to be saying that the simple fact that I'm white must mean I'm fake. I think it makes a better camouflage, don't you? Anything goes down, they're not going to be looking at me. They're going to look at everybody else but me. So to me, I see it as an advantage, not as a disadvantage. So don't be hating because you don't have my skin color. I have a lot of brothers and sisters in this organization who are brown, black, Asian. And I put the same amount of time and attention to them as I do with myself, man. I try to keep them on the right path. When they get angry and they want to do something on impulse, I try to slow them down and say, no, man, think about the big picture. You know, you go out and do this now, you're going to feel good in the moment, but then you are going to be looking over your shoulder, wondering, hey, are they going to pick me up? Am I going to get caught up? Somebody going to say something? Is one of theirs going to come and try and get me when I'm not expecting it? When I'm coming out the supermarket? It's not like the old times, man, but things could still change. But people have to change for themselves. My words may fall on deaf ears, but if I can reach at least one person outside of my local territory, that's what matters, man. Because most of the time, within 10 or 15 years, you still don't have the same circle of friends, man. So all the stuff you try to do to impress your friends, in the long run, doesn't matter, man. You should be focused on personal growth, on trying to make it, on trying to be something. Give yourself the best possible chance. Because in the end, everybody's out for themselves, man. These people might support you now, but when they find something better, they might move on. And if you've done nothing to better yourself, when those people are no longer around you, what ends up happening? You end up finding the same circle of friends on that same level, which is going to keep you down. Sometimes you have those friends that are bad influences, that the first sign of trouble, they will abandon you or tell on you. That's snitching. You have to surround yourself with people with the right mindset. People who are not involved in those kinds of things. Especially if they are in your organization. No superior, no OG should be trying to push their younger ones to follow a path of destruction. Because it's a never-ending cycle, man. Kids grow up without their parents, without their father or their mother, or both parents, because they're in jail. The kid holds that resentment, ends up getting caught up in the same stuff their parents were, ends up having a kid before they end up going to jail themselves, and then eventually to prison. And the circle continues. And that's the job of the OG and the freaking leaders. And like in my organization, the Coronas and the Incas to sit down at the Universals and say, hey, these activities will no longer be tolerated. But unfortunately, in many places, that's not what these kids are hearing. They are hearing, do more, bring in more money, move more weight. Tearing up communities, man. Bringing down the property values. Making it a war zone just to go and get some milk. There's too many Rickies, if you get my movie reference. Too many people who had so much potential and get cut down in their prime, man. Or do something dumb and get that felony on their record. So don't pay so much attention to my skin color, but try and pay attention to the messages I'm trying to bring. Alright? ADR.